Hey everyone, welcome to Artichoke Podcast episode number 4. This is a artifact-centered podcast where we talk about what the community is talking about, some deck choices, and we're going to also talk a little bit about lore. I am Lumi, and joining me are two of my greatest friends in the whole wide world. What's up, guys?
Why does our rank keep changing every week?
I mean, I think that's fine. Many titles.
The rank is increasing every time, and
I don't believe you, but okay.
Nice. I'm leveling up every time.
I feel nothing. But yeah, I'm Eosin.
I am Sheila. Nice to meet you for the 5th time.
4th time. We're on episode 4,
Fourth
guys.
time. Sorry. 4th time.
We had a pilot episode, but that's for practice. That was not released. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about a couple topics. As it is rumored, we have a patch coming up. Maybe by the time that you listen to this podcast, a new patch will be coming out. My guess is on January 10th. Valve is back from their holidays, and they're going to be making a couple of changes. So we're going to split the podcast into two halves. The first half, we're going to talk about what are the non-gameplay changes that we want to see them to make. As you might know, patch 1.2 brought about a lot of different changes, such as the ranking system, the leveling system, and I kind of wanted to revisit that and see how you guys feel about that now that you guys have more time playing Artifact. And also, the second half of the episode, we're going to talk about specific cards that we want to see buffed or nerfed. Seems like Valve is very open to the idea of changing cards. So we're going to, put our ideas out there. There's really, really good constructed deck. We're going to be focused on constructed today when we talk about the balance changes.
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so we got the patch 1.2. A couple of changes already happened. Anything that's like on your chest that you disliked about the patch or really liked and want to see them do more of?
I already mentioned it last time, right? Like, I'm happy to see that they're pushing out all these changes. Now it just needs to be refined. So I'm not going to go too deeply into it because bottom line is everything does need to be improved. I'm just happy that it's there to begin with. As to how they would change it, I guess the most important one right now is the ranking. The ranking doesn't really seem like a true ranking system. In fact, it doesn't resemble anything to a ranking system, right? You're just playing and then you level up.
Yeah.
And you're specifically talking about the draft and constructed ranking, right? I think
Yes.
the way that they proposed it was kind of an MMR system where the more you win, the stronger opponents you're going to face.
Mm-hmm.
And the harder it is for you to rank up, kind of like how it is like Dota MMR or how it is from like StarCraft 2 and stuff. From the way that I've heard people talk about it, it's literally just a grind. The more you play, the more you rank up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no skill, there's no D-ranking. I think previously when we mentioned that is like maybe you D-rank invisibly, like if you just go on a 10-game losing streak, it'll take you maybe 11 to 12 games to bump your rank up by one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case, I don't think.
It was confirmed by Cyborg Matt, though, on Twitter, as well as Brandon Reinhardt, that it does work similarly to Dota, where there is an invisible MMR system that lets you basically gain and lose MMR based on the games that you play and win and lose. So that is an effect. It literally works the same way as Dota in essence.
Well, here's the biggest problem. It doesn't really matter if that is the case. It just doesn't reflect very well.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, the current display of rankings and levels and whatever does not reflect that at all. So everyone's kind of like, well, it doesn't feel very rewarding. Doesn't feel like I'm going anywhere either. So.
It just feels kind of like an achievement because it's basically the max rank that you get is what will always show for you. So it shows how, like, the highest that you've come throughout the season. And if you derank, then you derank. And, like, I understand that they maybe implemented it for a few things. I know ladder anxiety is a thing. They also probably want to just make people feel good when they play and not demotivate them. But it just doesn't have the same kind of accomplishment that a true ranking system would.
Yeah, it also might go back to the fact that maybe Valve doesn't think a ranking system is good to have, and it's kind of just a byproduct of what the community is asking for, and they're kind of just appeasing us. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I'm maybe guessing here.
They have done 180s on,
There's no way.
their designs.
There's absolutely no way they would that's the case. Like they must have had something in mind. They just weren't sure what they wanted it to be. Because like if you think about it, right, Valve's not a small company. They 100% ask people, like, what do you think people would want to see? And unless they asked 100 people who clearly have no idea what they're talking about, I'm going to guarantee you 99% of them said there needs to be some sort of progression, right? Some sort of ranking, some way to see how good you are compared to others.
Then why wasn't it implemented on launch?
Don't ask me. They probably asked. They probably listened to the 1% who said, "Nah, don't need it," and the other 99% were ignored. Who knows? I don't know.
We will not be privy to.
Because if I was asked by Valve, should you see a ranking, and there was hundreds of me, all 100 would say yes. Implement a ranking system.
Not even one.
No, not even one.
Impressive. Nice solidarity.
I have no. Yeah, I have no weak genes.
So okay. I brought up the comparison for the ranking system to Dota, right? And you could argue, well, maybe Dota's kind of the same way. It's a bit different though, because after a certain point you actually get numbers attached to your rank. If you hit Immortal, which can be anywhere from I think like top 2,500 players.
Wait,
is that correct?
So let me stop you there. That's an entire separate thing already. Even before that happens, there's already a very big difference in the fact that there are skill brackets before Immortal.
That's fair.
Right? If Artifact had something like along the lines of, Legend, Archon, Ancient, that's already a step up.
I mean, you could argue that the levels are kind of like that too.
No, they are not. No. You have to understand from a consumer point of view, it is not the same. It is very different. And Artifact needs something like that. They need... I don't know what the best way is, but they must be thinking of something. So,
yeah, using Dota as a comparison, generally when the number is thrown out there, there's some sort of feeling that you associate with that number, right? So, going a couple years back, before all these Immortal Arc, I don't know what is associating with what because I don't pay attention to that. I only knew when there was a strict number system for the MMR, right? Yeah. So back then, when 8K was considered really high or 10K is considered really high, if you tell somebody, oh, I'm a 5K player, or I'm a 6K player, they could immediately tell what your skill level is, right?
Yes.
Right now, when somebody tells you, hey, I'm ranked 65, the only thing I know about that player is, oh, you play this a lot. That's it. I don't know how good or bad they are. And I don't think that's a good way to use a system like that. Yeah, maybe don't call it a ranking system because this really isn't, at least not the way that we new ranking system to be. Call it whatever, like a leveling system if you want to call it that, but it's not at least the ranking system that people are asking for. Personally,
it's not. Although when you bring up the Dota comparison and how when a player mentions their MMR you can immediately tell how skilled they are, I always keep thinking of the Dota Reddit memes where it's like 3K scrub, 4K scrubs think they know how to play, but really they're just slightly better than 3Ks. You're 5K, you think you're pro, but you're not really there. And I'm wondering if they wanted to steer away from that kind of like toxic community side by not attaching numbers like that.
I think that's actually a very interesting discussion. I'm not sure if we want to have it today, but like whether ranks are actually good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, I think we're all pretty agreed that like we do want to see an actual ranking system, and this is not it, but they did make a step in the right direction, so we're looking forward to seeing what they do further on.
I'm going to go ahead and say that it's 100% more beneficial to have a ranking system. That the toxicity is not as insane as it looks. It's just you're only going to hear it from people who are annoying enough to vocalize it.
Yeah.
Most other people are just normal and don't say anything. So.
And Dota and Artifact are different games in the end, so maybe the echo chamber of Reddit would be a bit different. You never know.
Yeah. I think to be fair, like Steven bringing up a good point that the people that are vocalizing about it are also people that care enough to vocalize about it.
Yes.
You and I are making a podcast where obviously we're more competitive than the usual players, so we want a ranking system, but we're not really sure if that's actually beneficial to the game as a whole. It would make me happier, but obviously I'm not a good representation of the average player base.
That's me.
I'm going to go ahead and say that it would be good, just because of how in depth the game is. The only kind of people you're going to attract to the game are mostly going to be competitive, anyways. So
yeah.
Okay. So another big kind of topic of discussion was about the monetization system. I think we touched on it a while back. Steven, how much have you spent since we actually had that discussion on Artifact? This is about 2-3 weeks ago, I think.
Since we had the discussion, I spent 0.
Okay.
I didn't buy anything. I had nothing to buy.
I haven't spent any money as well, but to be fair, I went pretty ham when Artifact first came out.
I actually had to spend maybe, I want to say, $20-$30 more, simply because I wanted to play Constructed, and I didn't have 3 Time and Triumph. I didn't have certain cards, so for me to play Constructed, I had to put in a little bit more money. But in terms of event tickets, with the addition of the recycling cards, with the addition of patch 1.2 where you got extra packs as you leveled up, I think I actually gained tickets. I don't think I've lost extra tickets. So I think for the 3 of us, we were all somewhat baffled when people are saying that like it's too expensive to play. I could see how it can be too expensive to play, but at the same time, it's not applying to us.
I mean, another thing too is market prices have definitely dropped if you want to play Constructed. Like, if you look at a lot of the tier decks that are listed online, like Draw2GG has a pretty nice list of a lot of the top decks, and it also has I'm not sure how like super up to date it is, but it will reflect a market price for all the cards that you need to buy. And the average price of most of the decks is about $20 to $30, which is definitely an investment. I'm not going to say it's like cheap change, because if you want to continue like trying different decks, that's going to add up. But there's a point where you're just going to have all the cards, and then you can just do whatever you want. And the whole set on average, I think, is supposed to be about $120. So even if you put in like the 20-ish bucks or so to get one deck going, so you can try to play Constructed and get into the meta, you're not going to be looking at more than 100 more bucks to really fill out your whole set. And honestly, with the packs that you win, the packs that you get from leveling up, the packs that you get from initially buying the game, that definitely alleviates the cost too.
There's another prevalent discussion point about the like prize play. And a lot of people feel that there should be some sort of reward for going 50-50, which is 2 and 2, right? Because once you hit your second loss, you're out. And at 2 and 2, you don't get any rewards. So my initial feeling about this is like, get good, kind of, which seems pretty cynical. But then at the same time, as the weeks went by, the players that used to put in the money in the system by going 2 and 2 are no longer playing in it, because for them, they don't get anything back.
Yeah.
So then those players are out of the system. So the only player that are actually good are the really, really good players. And then eventually those sort of good people get squeezed down to 2 and 2, and then they jump out. Do you see this loop that I'm describing here?
I do.
Maybe the reward system isn't that good.
I was actually considering that, because I was trying to think of how much average player will put into Artifact per day, how much time they'll put into it each day. And if tickets are a limiting factor where they can only do it maybe once, then maybe there can be a daily where 1 win grants you 1 ticket, and you can only get it once per day per mode, but that would include both social and prize. And the tickets would maybe be just tied to the run. So it's almost like you get an extra free run. And that way you could at least, play twice in a row and potentially like redraft, do something better, do something new. I don't know if that would really alleviate anything, though.
I'm just trying to think of other card games that I've played that I actually enjoyed their monetization.
Well, the thing is, what other card games have you played that had a cost attached to game modes? That's the big thing for people.
Shadowverse. I mean,
it did?
Hearthstone. Yeah, if you want to go do the arena run, you have to pay.
Oh, okay.
You either have to have the ticket or you buy the ticket. The ticket is like $250 or something.
And you can argue. Well, you can argue too. You don't have to play. Well, does that mean then that they should attach prizes to the casual modes?
Okay, so here's how Shadowverse works. You could play ranked for free, right? And you could climb, but it's not like you go on a gauntlet or anything, right? You just keep climbing, and the further you climb, like nothing actually changes. Your rank just goes up at certain point values. You also gain like seasonal rewards, but it's like really minimal.
Mm-hmm.
So by continuously playing the game, you don't actually get anything really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, except a number, and some people are really happy about that number.
Yeah, if it was only a number for me as a starting player, that wouldn't cut it, right? Because I want to try newer and newer decks, and this is where the price thing comes in play, right? People are complaining about the price for decks in Artifact. If I wanted to build a full meta deck in Shadowverse, it's probably just as expensive, or if not even more, depending on the deck that you're playing. And no one complained there, right? And I think the reason why is because, number one, the game was free, and number two was that since it's a more Japanese style type of like reward system where they give you login rewards, right? So you get packs every single day just by logging in. Actually, you don't get packs every day for logging in. Sorry, you get currency for logging in every day, and packs every other like 5 days or something like that. And then whenever they have like events or collaborations, you get more packs. So they just like constantly give you stuff, and then whenever the season resets, you get more stuff. Whenever a new expansion comes out, they give everyone like 10 packs, and they're just like really generous with how much stuff they give you. And I played Shadowverse for free, right? I never put a diamond in. I played it for maybe like 2 seasons for fun. Never made it to the top rank, but over the course of 2 seasons, I was able to make like, I want to say 3 meta decks without investing anything, just by liquidating all my other cards and opening packs and all that kind of stuff. So like, it felt pretty good playing that, not gonna lie. And also the fact that there were so many viable meta decks,
I'm not sure what was the point of that. Not saying what you said had no value, but like essentially how it ties back to.
Okay, so number one is the comparison of monetization.
Mm-hmm.
People are just unhappy to pay for the game. Honestly, you could have just removed the purchase and just like put that kind of like purchase elsewhere where it's not as like gatekeeping. Like you just like make it so that the game is free, but you make a very you literally just take that you know how when you buy the game, right, you get 10 packs and 5 tickets?
No, 5 packs, 2 tickets now, but you still get the deck.
Wait, when you buy the game now, you only get 5?
They changed it because of the account leveling system.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah,
It does suck. Some people pre-ordered the game when it first came out, but only opened it recently after the patch change, and they actually got less pack than the people that opened it before. So there was some.
Okay, so that kind of like changes it a little bit. Okay, but now let's say, for example, now that it's changed, right? My point was you could just remove the purchase price tag, and then just offer a. Now that it's cut in half, right? You could just be like, one-time offer. $10 will get you 5 packs and 2 tickets.
A lot of
and then a lot of people will just do that instead, right? And it's exactly the same thing. You might have less people buying it, but most people will end up purchasing it, and then the people who do purchase it end up being a little more invested, and then in the long run, they're more willing to spend more money on different things that you're going to offer in the future. And the other half of the long Shadowverse rant is like how they do a good job in like keeping you coming back, right? They make you come back because you have a login reward, right? So you're like inclined to log in at least once every single day just to collect whatever it is. They incentivize you to come back because whenever a new expansion comes out, there's like they give you 10 packs. So then you're just like, well, I'm not gonna lie, I logged in the other day. I was like, I know I got 10 packs. I'm just gonna open it. I pulled like 3 legendaries and I'm like, cool, and I logged out. But some people might be like,
is that really incentivizing you to play?
I mean, I will almost hit the play button. I was just
okay.
I was just messing around. But some people might come back and that kind of thing. Yeah. And they give you a reason to come back and play. Aside from actually playing the game itself.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely agree with your point about taking the base price of the game out of the question. or at least making it a non-factor. There have been a lot of players that have mentioned that, higher level players, competitive players, that think the game should go free to play. And instead, you should just have some kind of, system within the game, or a shop system in the game where you can buy packages of packs for a discount price, like an introduction pack. Hearthstone has something like that. I'm pretty sure almost every card game has an introduction beginners pack. Welcome to the game. Here's some packs for super cheap, along with our in-game currency.
I don't know why they don't introduce cosmetics either.
Well, that's
not down the road. That's down the road.
Yeah, but they didn't even say anything about it.
Why talk about something that's not your priority? People are just going to be like, why are you guys focusing on cosmetics when you should be fixing your rank system and
No, but not that though. You just say.
No. You don't even bring it up. You just keep it low, and then you just focus on making the game better, and then you bring out all the pretty shiny things for people to enjoy.
I 100% agree with Sheila. I feel like if the next patch they talk about cosmetics while everyone's ranting about all of these things that need to get fixed.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about in the past. They were brave enough to say we're also looking into a rank system, right? So I think around that time.
Oh, in beta?
In beta before the game even released. You just talked about all the stuff that you have in mind.
I mean, they definitely offhanded said that they are gonna add cosmetic. Every time people ask about imps, they're like, yeah, we're gonna do something like that for the future. It's just never.
They really gloss over it. They don't go into any detail at all. One thing about monetization that I was wondering about was why people are so upset over the price of Artifact when when you actually break the numbers down, it's really not that much more expensive than Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering Arena. Because I did a lot of research on Reddits and Blizzard forums and Magic the Gathering websites, and when people basically talked about the costs for expansions or for current sets, and Magic the Gathering Arena is pretty new, so some of the details on that were a little off kilter. Overall is about the same price, so why do people get so much more upset with Artifact?
I think it's the Shadowverse rant that Steven had.
The fact that you have to pay 20 to get
exactly it's the stigma of everything, right? You have to pay 20 to get the game, you have to pay $1 to actually play in the prize play, whereas you get the game for free. You don't have a lot of cards, but you get the game for free. Honestly, I think it comes out to be about the same, like you mentioned. I think Artifact's even cheaper.
It is cheaper compared
when you guys talk about the competitive deck experience for Shadowverse. You had to play for 2 months to get 3 competitive decks.
Yep.
Right now, if I want to put down $20 for Mono Blue, and then if I want to switch deck tomorrow to Red Green Ramp, I maybe lose out $5, but I could sell my Mono Blue and then switch into Red Green Ramp that much cheaper. You don't have to wait 4 more weeks of grinding to switch decks, and that's really, really good. If people know what they want to play. The thing is, I'm not sure if people do know what they want to play, and people just want to have a lot of cards. And
true, there's kind of a collector mindset.
I mean, they definitely want everything. So
yeah,
they want the ability to experiment and have fun and try a lot of stuff without having to put money down, which I kind of understand. But I wonder then if...
I hear there's a good mode for that. It's called Casual Draft.
Yeah, okay. I was also wondering, and I kind of brought it up earlier before, but if getting into prize play has some kind of barrier to it, should the casual play where you don't pay any tickets still award you a single ticket so that you can at least do basic entry level prize play, maybe once a day?
I was thinking that every non-prize play win that you get, so think of casual draft, casual constructed, every win you get should give you a common or 2 commons, right?
Oh, okay.
That's my personal fix. And then so that gives you cards, and they're common, so they're 3 cents. Or if you already have those cards, that's a 20th of a ticket or a 10th of a ticket, and then you could just recycle them eventually to get. So eventually it gives you both.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool.
I mean, I made the suggestions. I don't know whether Valve think it's a good idea, but it's definitely suggested. I'm sure they have an actual team of really much smarter people than me That probably
People
came
who
out
are
with this
school
already.
for this,
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be surprised, dude. You could have as much time in school, and you would still get this wrong. So, honestly, having a consumer point of view is much more valuable than you would imagine, I think.
I mean, that's why they haven't designed Wisp yet, right? You still haven't sent in the Wisp design.
Yeah, that's true.
God,
I don't know. They need to fix their game first, so I don't want to overload them with this. You know?
how kind of you.
Yeah.
At least personally, on my wish list is a better ranking system coming
Yes.
in the next patch, and I think we spent quite a bit of time on this discussion. So let's move on. The next part of the podcast is about the same thing, but less so about the flair of the game, but more so about the game itself. How will we balance things? So in patch 1.2, Valve has shown that they are changing and they're willing to balance cards. There were a lot of heroes and cards that got buffed, and a couple of heroes and cards that got nerfed. So today we're gonna kind of segment this discussion by talking about some of the top tier constructed decks right now, whether we think they're like the deck is too strong or balanced, and if so, how will we change the deck to either buff it or nerf it? So we're gonna start it from the top. So Steven and I recently cast the Panda TV Pioneer Artifact Tournament, which is a Chinese tournament that invited a couple of Western players. So Life Coach was in it, Wife Coach was in it, Swim was invited, he didn't show up. Rob AJG, Stan Sivka, so a couple of big names were in it. There were a draft portion, and then there were a constructed portion. And towards the end of the constructed portion, it was literally a red-green mirror every single damn match, and it was kind of fun is a strong word to describe it, but it was interesting matches to cast and watch. So let's start with that red green ramp. What do you guys feel the deck is in the meta, and would you change it in any way?
I do have a quick question. So most of the red green ramp, how many of them included Drow Ranger, and how many of them excluded her?
Like almost all of them excluded her.
Do you think that the change to Drow made red green actually stronger because people are focusing on other heroes like in an Omni Knight, or is it something
people don't
else?
even run Omni Knight? I didn't even see any Omni Knight. It was just Tree and Lycan.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say stronger, I would just say different. I think Drow Ranger has her place. Drow Ranger very good against the blue decks because Gus just kind of locks blue out, at least how old Gus was.
Yeah.
But I think in the new world, where it's a lot of red green mirror, Drow's actually a liability because her body's quite weak. For example, she dies to duel from Bristleback, duel from Legion Commander. Yeah. Whereas if you put a Lycan, 10 health actually makes you stay, and the card that Lycan brings you, the Savage Wolf, allows you to be much more proactive. And in the red green mirror, being proactive is more important than being reactive, which is what Gus gives you. So out of a lot of the red green decks, we saw versions without Drow. So the deck even got cheaper, if you want to think of it that way. There was one copy of it in the finals that included Drow, but I kind of feel like that is not a good representation of the meta. I feel like if you just tell me if you ask me what red green ramp right now is, I will tell you it's Lycan Tree, Axe, Bristle, LC. Those 5.
Yeah,
I see.
I agree. That's the most common version of it that we saw. There was a decent variation where they ran Tidehunter instead. Yeah, it wasn't one of the decks in the finals was a Tidehunter Drow replacement, but I didn't really like that much. But I think we did end up seeing one that replaced Bristle for Tide, and that's actually not bad, especially when you somehow managed to avoid red-green mirror. That Kraken Shell actually was super, super crucial to winning a lot of games. So, but other than that,
Kraken Shell is such a good card, honestly.
Well, Initiative is just insanely good.
So I guess we're all in agreement that the deck is quite good. Obviously, a lot of Chinese player brought in the tournament, and it's considered to be the tier 1 deck currently. Anything to change about the deck? Would you change the ramp aspect? Would you change the payoff aspect of the ramp?
Earlier, Stephen was mentioning something about Time of Triumph.
Oh no.
The karaoke. It started.
Oh, I can't. Why? How?
Isn't it a Monday night?
Dude, how?
It's a Monday night.
Alright, anyways. I was talking about Time of Triumph earlier. And I was talking about how if any part needed to change, it's going to be Time of Triumph. we watched so many red green ramp that it actually just became a race to see who could Time of Triumph first. Like even turn 2 Emissary wasn't enough to win a game. But a turn 2 Time of Triumph will definitely win you the game. I would definitely start with that first.
Any specific proposed changes? I wrote down a couple of different variation of how I would nerf Time of Triumph.
How to nerf Time of Triumph.
All right, you want to hear my ideas first?
All right, wait. I got one first. All right, I got one first. All right. Time of Triumph, 8 mana. It gives you +6 to everything, right? Instead of 4. Okay. You may only target 1 unit.
Ooh. Okay.
That's
fair.
You may only target 1 hero. Yeah.
I feel like that's in line with what Red is more trying to do. It's like buff 1 really, really strong hero. I don't know if 8 is the right cost for that. Maybe you should like lower to 6 or something. It'll be a really nice theme, right? 6 mana, 6 to everything.
Well, I think that's too powerful, though. I think
is it too powerful? Is it too powerful? I don't think it is.
The siege, the cleave, the armor, like what?
I don't think it's more powerful because there's a lot of ways to answer it 1 for 1, right? If you cast 6 mana, the new proposed Time of Triumph, Coup de Grace answers it temporarily. Like Cleansing Rite answers it temporarily. I think the fact that makes Time of Triumph currently really strong right now, it's an AoE spell. And once you play it, it doesn't matter what you do. Like eventually it's going to get you.
Yes.
So I actually like your change, but I don't know if I would put it 8 mana.
8 mana would make it a dead card, right? That's what I feel.
Exactly. Yeah, it's too low impact the turn you cast it. So there's 2 changes I thought of. Number 1 is reduce all the stats to 3/3/3/3 instead of 4/4/4/4/4.
I feel like that.
That's like a really boring change. The reason I changed it from 4 to 3 is how it plays with Vesture the Tyrant. Because right now Vesture doesn't cleanly block the siege aspect of the card.
Yeah.
Now you could use 1 Vesture and just kind of shut them out cold. Yeah, they still have really strong hero, and the hero probably kill your hero, but eventually you could outblock it. That's my number 1 change. Another way to change it is to actually take away the armor gain that you get from the card. Keep everything else the same, except the armor gain. The problem I had watching the Red Green Mirror casting Time of Triumph is that whoever casts it first wins. And the reason why is that you jump from 0 armor to 4 armor if you're the green hero. You jump from 2 armor to 6 armor if you're an axe. Yeah. You could just never actually kill it. Whereas if you actually don't give them the armor, it's still very strong offensively. Even defensively, you have Retaliate and you have Cleave and you have Siege. All of that is great. And at least the opponent could still throw down a hero like a PA or Axe and trade with one of your heroes. Right now, they're just literally unkillable, and it's just not fun. It just, once you get to Time of Triumph, you just win. And I think it's actually very unhealthy gameplay, the way that Time of Triumph currently is.
We joked about it a lot on the cast, but that actually is what it is, right? Like you play red green, and it feels so low skilled, right? You're just waiting to draw the card, and that's what the matchup feels like, or that's what the deck feels like, and that's like you said, it's not a good way to play the game.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so that is at least the tier 1 deck in the Chinese scene. Perhaps the tier 1 deck in the Western scene is the mono blue deck. We saw a lot of top players pilot to tournament victory. Obviously, Hype with the Story Cup swim on his online tournament win. They both had sometimes they had a 40 card version, that sometimes they had a 44 card version. Yeah. I think this deck is a little bit more controversial, whether it needs buffs or change or nerf at all. Obviously, in the Western scene, a lot of people consider it to be the best deck. Also, it's a deck that's not very fun to play or watch, or maybe even play. Do you guys think that this deck needs changes? Or do you guys think this deck is balanced?
Well, I will say a lot of people are unhappy with Ogre and multicast right now. I know RNG is kind of like a tricky topic.
Is that a lot of people, or is it Petrify?
It's Petrify and a lot of Reddit. Like there are a lot of people who think that the RNG mechanic needs to have some kind of limitations, because when you have somebody that just happens to multicast 5 Arcane Assaults in a row, it's pretty ridiculous.
That was a great Reddit clip, by the way. I saw that. That was funny.
Yeah. So I mean, I like multicast as a effect. I think it's neat and unique. and it really caters to like digital card game effects or whatever. But having some kind of upper limit to it would also be nice.
I actually agree. I think like the idea behind it is great. I think it's a really fun mechanic, but there needs to be limitations. It can't just be so ridiculous when it comes to luck. Like let's say if you had like Salamena and you just go off and you end up copying, like half of your cards. I mean, of course the game is not fun for the other person, right?
I mean, if you want to make him really like ogre, you could just make it so it could multicast anywhere from 1 to 4 times, like 2 to 4 times, and it just instantly casts it. Like it doesn't put it in your hand; it just like does the effect immediately.
I don't know how I feel about the RNG in general. Like you guys brought up Ogre Magi. I think Bounty Hunter is another fine example of this. I kind of like this type of RNG in the game. It adds variability, and I believe I'm kind of a pretty competitive mindset, but I'm okay with RNG because I feel like I don't know. I think the game is actually less fun if I could math out exactly what happens.
That part is obvious. That part is obvious. What the point I'm trying to get to is there needs to be limitations because it's not a good thing to have in the game when honestly the chances aren't even like that low when
what
you can pull.
Mean by the limitation is 25% of the time you'll copy a blue spell. That is says on the card. That isn't that the limitation, or are you talking about something else?
Well, what I'm trying to say is it's not out of the ordinary for you to copy like 3 times straight. That's like
yes, that's how math works. That's how 25% works.
That's game breaking. Like
it's not game breaking. It's yes,
no, it's
yes,
game breaking. It's game breaking. Like if it happened to you, you're just gonna be like, "Wow, I can't believe that happened." It's not fun. Like it's not good. You can't possibly tell me that it's something that should happen. I think it should be changed. Like I'm fine with the mechanic itself, but it can't be allowed to happen like 6 times straight if you're lucky enough.
From a philosophical standpoint, I think Mono Blue needs to be changed, but I would not touch Ogre personally if I would change Mono Blue.
What do you think the other issue is with Mono Blue?
There are 2 cards I would look at. Number 1 is Aghanim Sanctum. Kind of insane what the card does.
1 turn cooldown.
Yes, yeah. So that's where I'll touch it. I'll probably change it to a 2-turn cooldown. Right now, there's no skill to the card where you just click that button every turn and you just get mana. I feel like if you have a 2-turn cooldown on the card itself, then it makes the card much more skill based. If you want to go Sanctum and go Sanctum, refresh, Thunder God's Wrath, and then do multiple Thunder God's Wrath, that's good. You better make sure that the Sanctum is prepped and ready the previous turn and you don't use it, or you make sure that you can't double up spell in the next turn. At least that makes you plan ahead a little bit. And I mean, that fits Mono Blue, right? All they do is plan ahead and think about what spells to cast. I think just changing it from 1-turn cooldown to 2-turn cooldown automatically adds so much more depth to the card. And of course, it is a nerf to the card.
That's a fair change. I agree with that.
Second card.
Another proposed change, and this is the more boring one. I think they should nerf at any cost somehow. Whether it's changing it to 4 mana, whether making it do 5 damage instead of 6. I feel like the card is a little bit pushed. I'm okay with blue having Annihilation because their heroes suck, and all they have to do is like wait till mana 6 before they could do anything anyways. Yeah. And I think that's fine. But I feel like with the combination of at any cost plus Annihilation,
it really
it just shuts out a lot of like some heroes are just not playable. I personally think like Prelix is just not in the meta because she just dies. A lot of black heroes just can't be played because they just died to any cost. So yeah, I would look at that card, but I don't think Mono Blue is that strong, and I don't think it needs to be changed.
No, I just think that the RNG shouldn't be limited by that kind of limitation. Like that, just a chance-based limitation. I'm not a big fan. But like a good example is like look at Crystal Maiden, right? You get 2 mana back after you play a card. That's nice and simple. Like what if Ogres was like you have a 25% chance to multicast once per turn, but if you don't multicast, the chance increases by X amount of percentage until you do multicast, and then it resets back to 25%.
Ooh, since it's a digital game, you could just keep hovering to see what the number is at. every time you cast a spell. Pseudo random generator.
It's a pseudo random, right?
17%.
And if you get to copy one card, you should be happy, right? One card, it's manageable, and you benefit from it. Great, everyone's happy. None of this. I'm gonna Arcane Assault 6 times straight and win the game, that kind of thing. Or
Ooh.
I'm going to Salamene and Dimensional Portal multicast 6 times and spawn 60 creeps or whatever. None of that.
You know what's a really cool idea that you just brought into my head? So, gonna jump away from Artifact a bit. I'm gonna talk about Slay the Spire. It's a deck building game that you're building a deck as you go through a dungeon and you fight enemies and stuff. And one of the mechanics in that game, there's a relic in there. So every 10th attack that you do with that relic, it doubles the damage of that attack. Yep. So you got me thinking, like, multicast should have a tracker, like a number tracker. Every 5th cast, you're guaranteed to multicast. Or every 6th card, you're guaranteed to multicast. Then, all of a sudden, again, you're planning things out. You're casting things like Compel or Cunning Plan. You're trying to take up that counter. Even across lanes, right? It adds to that counter. And then on that lane, when Ogre is casting, you better be casting something good that you could guarantee to proc that multicast. I don't know. I think that might be more interesting than the whole, hey, 25% of the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a lot of time spent on mono blue. Okay, so the next deck to touch up real fast on is Black-Red Aggro. I personally think the deck is perfectly fine where it is. There's obviously a lot of different variations to the deck, but what do you guys think?
No, I agree with it. Like, it's like fun to play. It's rewarding to play, right? It's something like you have. There's a lot of skill involved because you have to plan, who you need to shut out, cross lane mechanics with the black and all that kind of stuff. It's rewarding to play. It's very skill intensive, right? Mm-hmm. And as someone playing against it, it's the same way around, right? It's very skill intensive when you play against a black-red because you have to play around all of their cross lane things, duels and calls, all that kind of stuff. It feels like what Artifact originally was intended to be, right? Very in depth, a lot of planning ahead. It feels good to play as black-red and against black-red. So I'm fine with black-red as it is.
I always just like any black variants, like any black deck variants. I always enjoy. I think black's one of the most entertaining cards to watch.
I agree because they're so kind of risky, right? They attack for a lot, but they're also very weak on defense. So you're always juggling between the offense and defense. Yeah, I like most black decks as well. And then the next two category, I'm going to lump them together because I feel like, for me personally, I'm going to say a lot of the same things about it. Mono red, which is kind of a tier 2 deck right now, and blue red control, which is kind of fringe tier 2, 1.5. And the issue I have with those two red decks is that it's the same issue with the Reckoning Ram. It's like either you time a Triumph or you don't time a Triumph. I feel like the power level disparity is too high in the whole before and after phase of it. I feel like red almost needs another 6 or 7 mana card to actually play. I think Spring the Trap, for example, is a great comparison to Time of Triumph. Obviously, it's when you play Spring, you don't win, right? But it's a very, very powerful tool that red has the option to have, and a lot of red decks build with that in mind. Yeah. I just feel like you have more. If you have another option like a mana 6, that's not Marifel Brawler. That's not a 6/16 like dumb creep. Yeah. That'll be more fun to play with, and I kind of feel like red is missing that. Like after a certain point, after 6 mana, you're just looking at your options, and you got Routed, which is a pretty interesting option. And I gotta say, I haven't tried Routed enough, really. Maybe Routed is that card that we should be playing with. I'm not sure. You got Routed, you got some dumb creep, you got the Ogre Conscript, you got the Marifel Brawler, you got Spring the Trap, and then you have Time of Triumph. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like there's not enough top end. And I just wish there's more options for red.
Yeah.
I mean, something we did talk about was Red Mist Pillager.
Well, that's not a 7 or 6, 8 mana card, right?
As much as I love Routed, you really just don't see it that much outside of draft, I think.
I mean, some people run it in Constructed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't compare to putting in, like, Time Triumph. Like, if you're gonna put one or the other in, you'd always put TOT. Always. Like, maybe Routed will become more popular as Mono Blue. If Mono Blue continues to stay on top and doesn't, receive any nerfs. Because I think the minus mana really impacts your blue heroes quite a lot.
I mean, routed is pretty much good against everyone if you can kill them. Like mono blue, sure, they die a lot more, but I mean, I've seen games where mono red just like routes 4 heroes against a red black deck, for example. So
the 5-man routed. Oh.
Can you imagine like a mono red deck with 4 heroes with half their attack? I mean, that's pretty brutal. So
that's true.
I was just thinking about routed, right? And red blue.
Mm-hmm.
Mono red is a different thing on its own, but red blue, right? I was just thinking like maybe the counter to red green ramp with mono or with red blue is to play more draw, and you let them ramp to Time of Triumph, right? If they turn to Time of Triumph, I mean, whatever. Like, there's really nothing you can do against that. It doesn't matter what deck you're playing,
right?
But if you're able to hold until mana 6, and they somehow ramp to Time of Triumph, you annihilate them, and then you route them, and that cuts their damage in half, right? That pretty much like reduces it even beyond the Time of Triumph rate.
But there's also the siege, and there's also the cleave and the armor and all that stuff.
I mean, you know, you buy yourself a turn so that you can Time of Triumph yourself by turn 8. I don't know.
You've broken your leg and you're putting a Band-Aid on it. Like, that's what I feel like.
You know the card, the green mana, 6 mana rare that nerfs everybody's attack by 2? Do you know which card I'm talking about?
Atrophy.
Yeah, Curse of Atrophy.
Yeah, every time I look at that card and then I look over to Time of Triumph, I'm just like, why? It's just like,
yeah.
Why is this a rare card? In fact,
yeah,
that's
yeah, exactly. Like, do you even play that shit in draft?
I don't even play it in
draft. It's just not a good card. I'm just looking at it. Would you play at 5 mana? Would you play at 4 mana? You probably play at 4 mana.
I think that would be way too.
If it was a 4 mana, it'd actually be pretty good. Yeah. Pretty damn good.
Pretty good. Yeah. 5 mana. I feel like that card should get buffed maybe at 5 mana. Even though we're not talking about it at all.
I actually think that card, you know what it should do? It should be more in line with Vengeful Spirit's ability.
Strength?
No. So Curse of Atrophy should -2 attack from your opponents, and like give 2 to everyone in your lane, like 2 to your heroes in that lane.
No, why don't you just make it an aura? Like you just make it a modifier. I mean.
Ooh, I like that idea. What if it's like 6 mana? Give your hero, modify your hero with an aura, right?
Yeah.
Give your whole board +1 attack, and when that hero with the modification dies, then you permanently modify their board with -1 or -2.
Drow back in the meta. Let's go.
Right. All right. We got sidetracked with this. Okay, so the last deck that I think is quite strong and that people should look at is black blue econ. So you payday, you get horns and vestures and all of that stuff. I think the deck's fine. I think that the deck doesn't need any changes or buff or nerf. Any thoughts on that?
No, I actually agree. Like I've played against the deck a few times when I did like custom constructed matches with some friends. And I would play like kind of Mimi decks, and blue black, like as long as you're playing smart against it, it's okay. Once they actually get the econ rolling and get the vestures out, it's a really hard game from there. So then it really depends on how your deck is structured. But it's not impossible to beat. And it has a lot of its own strengths, but you know, I think it's in a pretty good place all in all.
This deck is kind of weird for me. I feel this is like, you know what blue black econ feels like to me? It feels like it's trying to do the same thing red green ramp is, except it's weaker.
In a different way, right? In a different way.
It feels weaker, yeah. Because red green ramp, you're trying to ramp to Time of Triumph, and we already know how insane that is. Blue black econ, you're trying to ramp into Horn of the Alpha or Vestures, and
Apotheosis Blade.
Okay, if you're running Apotheosis Blade, you're running like a tier 7 deck, right? But like if you're playing blue black econ, right, you're trying to rush into those items and then you're trying to copy them and everything. Like you're just taking forever to set up what red green is trying to do with Time of Triumph.
I agree, but I think it's better. Well, not better as in it's stronger, but it's better for the card game because black blue econ, the way it's ramping is killing your heroes and tracking you and payding, right? Like there's some sort of interaction.
Yes, there's a game
tracking you and I'm killing you. Was Wrecking Ram says, oops, I guess I'm going to double Stars Align and TOT, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no game there. It's just like, oh yeah, oops, you lose.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, although I will say, being in a game against 3 Vestures is not very fun.
Well, you only have yourself to blame if they have 3 Vestures.
I know, but
Well, I was gonna say you also only have yourself to blame by being in the game. You could just leave, man. 3 Vesture, I'm out, dude.
That's true.
3 Vestures, I'm out.
Or you blame yourself for not running Corrosive Mist.
All right, we can't have an answer for everything. All right, thank you.
Actually, one of the best answers to multiple Vesture is to just actually get out. And I don't mean the game, but the lane that they're in. So you try to trick them into one lane, and then you get out of the lane. Obviously, a lot easier said than done, but
all
right,
just kill them.
just kill them.
Just kill them and then kill the tower. So
and then they're back next turn. Huh?
No, it doesn't matter because you've already taken the tower. It's easy.
My.
All right, that's going to do it for our gameplay discussion this week. And every week, we're going to have a little bit of lore corner because one of our hosts for the podcast, Sheila, she is a lore expert.
Wow.
She's always ready to tell us a little bit more about the world of Artifact. So what's going on this week?
Hell yeah. All right. Recently, we had a nice buff to Jasper daggers. So I thought I would make this topical and talk a little bit about the Jasper Circle. The Jasper Circle features prominently on a lot of black cards, but you can see them on a few blue and other cards in mentioning or in passing. So Jasper Circle is led by Laurelin Lasan. You can see him pretty well on the art of both Escape Route and Self-Sabotage. He's basically the blue figure with the kind of beak-looking face. I don't know what kind of race he is. I think he's a new one. So Jasper Circle themselves are considered assassins for hire by the general population, but they're more of a spy ring that offers a multitude of other services. So you can see their influence in a lot of the different conflicts going on, primarily the Roseleaf conflict, and a little bit of Prelix and Kana. So you can look at Lodestone Demolition. You see they're sabotaging the Bronze Legion. In unsupervised artillery, you can see that they've, bribed the little kobold dudes into falling asleep and not really firing off them trebuchets. And they're the same trebuchets because it's the same design as the one in the actual trebuchet card. I had to look that up to make sure because I wasn't 100%.
Okay, I got a quick question as you're going through these arts. So you said they're assassins for hire, right?
Yeah.
The other assassin group that I know of are like the Sisters of the Veil. Are they in any way tied to them, or they're not tied to them? Are they like rival gangs?
No.
rival gangs.
Streets versus Sharks, or Jets versus Sharks. No. They're not. The Veiled Sisterhood is more of a actual, secretive, I don't want to say cult, but they're kind of a cult, They kind of abduct young children and bring them into their fold and give them names and, basically take over their lives. But no, I wouldn't say that they are rivals as far as we know.
Okay.
That will change later on. But then, so those cards that I mentioned and the art and the lore within them show how they're neither, for or against either side. They're basically just wherever the money's coming from. You can also see that they have a hand in Prelix versus Kana because you see Lord Lisan handing a bribe to Radiant Creep in the Self-Sabotage card art. It's really the only one that has Jasper Circle intertwined with Kana and Prelix, so I don't know if they're really only helping Kana's side or if it's just another example of they'll do whatever they can for money. So another fun fact is Meepo is currently indebted to the Jasper Circle. He owes a debt to them because they basically gave him money to pay off his debts at the racetracks.
Dude, everyone should listen to the Meepo lore. It's actually the best.
Yeah. We should do a in-depth Meepo lore one of these days, but
yeah, but his plan right now is to let Bounty Hunter capture Mareska, aka Dark Willow, who if you played Dota 2, you know who she is, which He does, because one of the card arts that I can't recall off the top of my head, you can actually see him handing her off. Payday. Yeah, actually, for Payday. Yeah. You can see her being handed off to somebody within Revtel. But Meepo's idea is that after that, he would free her, then get her to pay off the Jasper Circle. I mean, we'll see how that goes. I don't actually know if it would be very successful. But one thing I wanted to mention, though, is the motivations behind Jasper Circle. Because for the most part, like I said, they go wherever the money flows. But in the actual escape route card art, there's a quote where Laurelin is basically talking to somebody, and he's shown assisting a figure called Losel. So his actual quote is, while there's good money in murder, there's also a lot of effort in it, and I'm a busy man. And he's basically saying, if you want to pay me instead of these other figures, I will help you escape from whoever's hunting you. When Laurelin's describing the people going after Losel, he mentions that they're very influential and very wealthy. And you can find one other mention of this Losel figure, and it's actually on the Revtel Convoy card. And he mentions that the guy within Revtel Convoy, Lowen Platt, he mentions that Iron Fog is being terrorized by Losel. So it's very heavily implied that Losel is actually being targeted by the Brass King, who is one of the 3 figures of Revtel. And why? I don't know. And it kind of figures that Laurelin isn't really doing this for the money, that maybe he has some other motivations going on besides that.
I feel like this tale is unraveling. So all I got is Jasper Circle, mercenary for hire. They're a group. They take your money and they kill people for you.
Or they do other things too.
Mm-hmm. No, but I'm saying that's what you would expect. But if you unravel this little bit of lore, it shows that the leader of Jasper Circle might have more motivations than just money. There's the potential that there's some other underlying storyline there.
Okay.
There's always more.
Yeah. Is he good? Bad?
Find out in set 2, maybe.
Please give me more lore.
Okay, so that's going to do it for the podcast episode. But before we end the podcast, every week we're going to rank some silly things. And it's always somewhat hard to come up with these topics. Last week we talked about our favorite candy. This week Sheila picked a topic. And it's the top 3 things that spark joy.
Yeah, David and I
Don't say David and I, because I only watched a single episode of it. And I don't plan to continue on. But you could tell what sparked joy is.
So there's a new Netflix show called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, and she is a Japanese woman who basically goes to people and helps them figure out how to declutter and organize their lives. And these aren't people who are pack rats or anything. They're just people who maybe have let things get a bit too far and they just don't know how to make things organized and don't know how to unpack everything, and there's a lot of emotional baggage behind things too. It's a very interesting show. But anyway, Marie Kondo's thing is where when you are trying to decide if you want to keep something or not, you basically have to take the item, look at it, and think, does this spark joy within me? And she describes spark joy as a raising of the cells in your body. It just makes you feel, ching.
That's what she said?
Yes.
So how am I going to answer this? Because not a single thing in life sparks joy for me.
What about me?
I got nothing.
So, I'll start off first anyway, since I shamelessly ripped the topic off to begin with. So I made my things that spark joy household related, since that's kind of the show, but you guys can do whatever. So one thing that I really, really like to do, and Steven is aware of it, is organizing my shelves. I like decorating my shelves. I don't just put my books or my comic books on there. I've got all sorts of stuffed animals. I got mugs. I have these little graded folder things that I have pins stuck into to decorate them. I'm all about that stuff. I gotta make them look nice.
Okay, weirdo.
my life. All right. Next, I like to maximize my space efficiency. After moving in with this gentleman, I have learned the value of trying to make my space as efficient as possible so that I don't feel claustrophobic and closed in. Because this guy did not care whatsoever. And to be fair, there's now, 2 people occupying the same space that only one person was in. So it's very easy for things to feel a little overwhelming. But once I actually get things organized in a nice way, it makes me feel really good. Feel really
So
happy.
can you give an example of what maximizing space efficiency means?
Yeah, sure. So for example, I came in with a whole bunch of new clothes, right? Couldn't really figure out what to do. So I ended up buying a bunch of hanging racks. I bought my own clothing rack that I inserted into the closet so that we could have 2 different layers for the clothes. Gonna be installing more space racks and stuff so that we can have kind of floating shelves going on, that kind of stuff.
So it's like buying a broadsword instead of a short sword.
Exactly.
You just one slot, same slot, but just more efficient now.
Exactly.
Wow, tying it to the game.
And then my number one thing that makes me happy is making the bed. This seems like a really dumb thing, and I know a lot of people hate making the bed, but a messy bed, when I look at it,
it's a messy life.
Yeah, messy bed's a messy life.
I just came up with that. Right. I don't believe it at all.
All right, anyway. When I wake up and make my bed and I look at it and it looks all nice and clean and just neat, I feel good about myself. And I'm like, yeah. That's
all right.
I'm gonna start today.
I'm gonna just call you out real fast here because when I go over,
no.
Bed is not made.
I always wake up before this guy does, right?
Oh, I see.
He's already in the bed. By the time I leave, he's usually still in the bed. So I don't always get to make the bed. I wish I did.
So Steven, this is saying you should make the bed.
Not true, because I have to drive her to work, which means she could make the bed before she goes to work.
Yeah, but you're always the last one to get out of bed, and I'm always like, Steven, it's time to go, and you're like, all right. So you get out of bed, and then you get ready in 1 minute, and then we get out the door. So
that means you had 1 minute to make the bed, but you don't do it.
I can't make the bed in 1 minute.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about my Spark Joy list. So that's all I got before. I didn't know this was household related, so I actually had to. I went through midlife existential crisis because I was like, Steven, nothing gives me joy. So I had to really dig deep and think about what actually makes me happy. I have the list now after actually I sat down for 30 minutes preparing for this. This list took me longer than preparing for the podcast. Okay, so at number 3 is the first time experiences. And no, it's not what you're thinking, but sort of it is. It's basically the first time I discover something new or amazing. So, I mean, think of your favorite movie, right? Mm-hmm. It's that first time you watching the movie and the realization that you could never get that first time back. Like if I could wipe my mind and watch Spider-Verse again, that would make me really happy. But I can't, right? I already seen Spider-Verse. Or the first time I discovered this cool combo in a card game or something. Or the first time I came up with this or that. The first time I experienced Breath of the Wild. I remember beating Breath of the Wild for the first time. I was like, oh my god, this game is amazing. The problem with this joy is that it's very fleeting. And, once you have it once, it's just gone. Because there's only a once first time. So
a lot of things to discover. It just means you're not discovering enough.
Yeah, maybe. That's why I'm also having a midlife crisis. Second... is I love my loved ones cooking my favorite meal for me. So I don't know if that's a simple happiness or something, but when my mom makes me my favorite meal, that just makes me really happy. I guess I don't need to explain that too much. Mm-hmm. And then lastly is my favorite thing that brings me the most joy in the world is creating something myself. I don't consider myself a very creative person. I'm not that Asian kid that plays a musical instrument. I don't know how to do art. So what you can consider traditional creative creations, I'm just not very good at. So the times that I could actually make something that's of value that other people enjoy, it makes me really, really happy.
That's nice.
Okay.
I like that.
So that's all I had. It's very, very general, and I can't actually give good examples for each category, but that's all I
It
got.
doesn't have to be super special. Like okay, something that sparks joy in me is like smelling sunscreen because it reminds me of the beach, and I always think about summer days from when I was a kid.
You're so weird.
Whatever. Anyway, what about your list? Huh? What sparks joy in your life, Mister? I haven't even thought up a list, so I'm just gonna come up with something random off the top of my head. Mm-hmm.
It's not that I couldn't think it. I mean, it's not that I didn't take time to think about it. It's just I couldn't find anything that brings joy in my life.
Wow, you're so edgy.
No, that's not edgy. That's really depressing.
Do I not bring joy in your life? All right, don't answer that, please. What about like bibimbap? Eating Korean food. How is eating Korean food not like a spark joy?
What about Yakuza 0?
Exactly.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Man, that felt so good. All right, number 3. Number 3, things that spark joy within me. Number 3. What's a really good one? Oh, I got it. Just came up with it. You know why I just came up with it? I don't know why. Anyways, the thing that sparks joy in me, number 3, is when Sheila tells me I have a chore I need to do, right? And then I'm about to go do it. And then I'm immediately hit with oh, never mind. It doesn't need to be done anymore.
That shit is really good. That shit is really good. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's some true spark joy shit.
So good. The greatest joy. Maybe that should be number 1.
Yeah, how's that number 1? How's that not number 1, man? That
is actually the greatest feeling. It's like, it's not even just chore. It's like anything work related. It's like, yo, you have to like do this on Friday or something. You gotta like wake up at 8 a.m. and go and do it or something. And then they're like, oh, it got canceled. I'm just like,
yo, yes. that reminds me. So for the Panda TV tournament, the final was supposed to be split into 2 days, and we're supposed to cast it over 2 days.
Oh, and then they told
us, yeah, we're gonna just cast it in 1 day. That shit was sparking joy, man. That was
that was good.
Yeah,
that was good. Yeah, I'm so glad it's over now, so I can finally go back on a regular sleep schedule. All right, number 2. God, what really makes me happy? I really couldn't think of anything. Oh,
I'm also surprised Korean food isn't on there for you. Like,
dude, I got it. Number 2. It's when someone subscribes to me. So if you want to bring me some joy, you can subscribe to me at twitch.tv/EosInTrash.
Wow.
Got him. And number 1, it's when Beast Coast sends me their goods.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna be real. They send me like enough clothing to last me like 3 years. So
that's true. You only wear like 5 shirts.
As an Asian, ever. When you get to save money, dude, that's
the biggest part.
Wait, I just realized something. Applying discounts.
Oh shit, that's good.
Oh my goodness. All right, that's my number 1. Applying discounts.
Okay.
Dude, I went to Qdoba the other day, and we finally had enough points to redeem 1 free entree. And I the original price was like $27 for 3 orders, and I was like, wait up, let me scan this. Scanned it, and I was like, oh, your order is now $17, and I was just like, goddamn, I just saved $10. Amazing, just amazing, and I just couldn't stop telling myself and my brother. I went with Alex. It's like, bro, that was so cheap. 3 meals, like 3 Qdoba meals, only $17. We just saved $10.
You know when you're Asian, when your top 2 out of 3 sparking joy is money related.
Oh man.
All right, guys. That is going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys had as much fun listening to it as we had fun doing it. This podcast is weekly, and if you want to talk to us, BTS Artichoke at gmail.com is the way to reach us. Our mailbox is extremely lonely, and we would love to answer your mail questions, but you gotta send them first. You can follow myself at Luminous Universe, my lovely co-host at Insert Fail, as well as at Eosin Dota. And of course, you could spark joy in Eosin's life by watching his stream at Twitch TV/EosinTrash, and I guess subscribing as well. But that's it. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you later.